The message came on a Tuesday morning. It was not in any human language, but it repeated itself every 30 seconds, a pattern too perfect to be natural. Scientists around the world stopped what they were doing. Governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders prayed. Children asked their parents what was happening. Humanity was no longer alone. Dr. Bai stood in the command center of the research vessel Harmony, watching the data scroll across her screen. She had spent 15 years studying languages, both ancient and modern. She had learned 12 of them fluently, but nothing had prepared her for this. The alien transmission used mathematical patterns as its foundation, something universal, something any intelligent species could understand. "They want to meet us," she said quietly. Captain Wu stood behind her, his arms crossed over his chest. He was a tall man with a serious face and eyes that never seemed to rest. He had served in the military for 20 years before taking command of the Harmony. He trusted very few things in life, and alien messages were not on that list. "Or they want us to think they want to meet us," he replied. Bai turned to look at him. "We have to try. This is the moment our entire species has been waiting for." Some moments are not worth waiting for. But the decision was not theirs to make. Earth's unified government, formed just 10 years ago after the last Great War, decided to send a diplomatic team. Dr. Bai would lead the mission. Captain Wu would keep her safe. The Harmony, a small research vessel designed for deep space exploration, would carry them to the outer edge of the solar system where the aliens had said they would wait. The journey took 3 weeks. Bai spent most of that time studying the transmissions, learning their patterns, trying to understand something about the beings who had sent them. Wu spent his time checking weapons systems and running emergency drills. The crew of 42 watched both of them and wondered which approach would prove more useful. When they finally arrived at the meeting point, near the orbit of Neptune, the aliens were already there. 3 ships hung in the darkness of space. They were beautiful in a way that made human ships look like children's toys. Their hulls were smooth and silver, catching the distant light of the sun and reflecting it like mirrors. Each ship was easily 5 times the size of the Harmony. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for objects so large. "They are scanning us," reported Lieutenant Park, the communications officer. "Let them," said Wu. "We have nothing to hide." That was not entirely true, but Bai said nothing. She knew about the Silent Mountain. Everyone in the command structure knew. But that was a secret buried deep in the asteroid belt, and she hoped it would stay buried forever. The alien ships opened a channel. A face appeared on the main screen, and Bai felt her breath catch in her throat. The being was humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue, almost white, and its eyes were large and dark like pools of ink. It had no hair, and its features were sharp and elegant, as if carved from marble by a master sculptor. "I am High Emissary of the I Collective," the being said. Its voice was smooth and musical, translated by some technology that made it sound almost human. "We welcome you, young ones, to the greater community of stars." Bai stepped forward. "I am Dr. Bai, representative of Earth. We are honored by your presence and grateful for this opportunity to meet." Smiled, but there was something in that smile that made Wu's hand move closer to the weapon at his hip. It was the smile of someone looking at a child who had just said something amusing. "Your world has been observed for some time," continued. "We have watched your species grow from simple creatures into something interesting. The collective has decided it is time to bring you into our family." "Family," Wu muttered under his breath. "I do not like that word." Bai ignored him. "We would be honored to learn more about the collective and discuss how our peoples might work together." "Indeed," said, "we have much to offer. Protection from the dangers of the galaxy. Technology beyond your current understanding. Trade that will make your world rich. All we ask in return is cooperation." The word hung in the air like a promise that was also a threat. Far away, in a hidden station carved into a massive asteroid, Admiral Ho watched the exchange on a delayed feed. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too many battles. The room around him was dark, lit only by screens showing data from 100 different sources. "What do you think?" asked Lieutenant So, his tactical officer. She was young but brilliant, with a mind that could calculate battle scenarios faster than most computers. Ho did not answer immediately. He watched space, studied the way the alien moved, the way it spoke. He had learned long ago that words meant little. Actions meant everything. "I think," he said finally, "that they are not here to make friends. Should we reveal ourselves?" "No," Ho shook his head slowly. "Not yet. Let them think we are weak. Let them believe they have found easy prey. The harmony will play its part and Dr. Bai will do her best. She is good at what she does." "And if she fails?" Ho turned to look at a secondary screen, one that showed the outline of a massive ship hidden among the asteroids. The Silent Mountain. 2 kilometers of steel and weapons, built in secret over 30 years, designed for a war that humanity hoped would never come. "Then they will learn," he said quietly, "that humans are not prey. We never were." Back at the meeting point, the negotiations had begun. Invited the human delegation aboard the I flagship, a ship called the Eternal Grace. Bai accepted, despite Wu's objections. "We cannot show fear," she told him. "That is not how diplomacy works." "Diplomacy works until it does not," he replied. "And then people like me have to clean up the mess." But he followed her anyway, because that was his duty. The interior of the Eternal Grace was as beautiful as its exterior. The corridors were wide and filled with soft light. Plants from a dozen different worlds grew in elegant gardens. Other aliens walked past them, some humanoid, others strange beyond description. All of them looked at the humans with curiosity, and some with something else, something that looked almost like pity. High Emissary led them to a great hall where a long table had been prepared. Other members of the collective were already seated, representatives of different species, all watching the humans with those same dark, unreadable eyes. "Please," said, gesturing to empty seats at the far end of the table, "let us begin." Bai sat down, her heart beating fast but her face calm. Wu stood behind her, refusing the offered seat. His eyes moved constantly, watching everything, trusting nothing. The first meeting between humanity and the stars had begun. And somewhere in the asteroid belt, the Silent Mountain waited in the darkness, patient as death itself. The negotiations lasted for 7 days. 7 days of careful words and hidden meanings. 7 days of smiles that never reached the eyes. Dr. Bai worked harder than she had ever worked in her life, learning the customs of the eye, studying their body language, trying to find common ground between two species that had nothing in common at all. The collective, she learned, was made of 12 different species spread across hundreds of star systems. The eye were the founders and the leaders. They had discovered faster-than-light travel thousands of years ago and had spent that time bringing other species into their family. They used that word often, family, but the more Bai heard it, the less it sounded like love and the more it sounded like ownership. On the 3rd day, she met Scholar. Unlike the other eye, seemed genuinely curious about humans. She was younger than, with softer features and eyes that sparkled with interest rather than judgment. She asked Bai about human art, human music, human stories. She wanted to know everything. "Your species is fascinating," said as they walked through one of the ship's gardens. "You have existed for such a short time, and yet you have created so much beauty. Most young species focus only on survival, but humans seem to care about meaning." Bai smiled. "We are dreamers. It is both our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. Perhaps it is why the collective noticed you. There is something special about a species that looks at the stars and sees not just resources, but wonder." For a moment, Bai felt hope. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could find a way to join the galaxy as equals, sharing knowledge and culture, growing together. Maybe the universe was not as cold and dangerous as Captain Wu believed. But that hope began to die on the fourth day. The treaty documents arrived. Bai read them 3 times, certain she must be misunderstanding something. But the words were clear, even in translation. Earth would become a protected member of the collective. This sounded good until you read further. Protected members could not develop weapons beyond a certain level. They could not explore space without permission. They could not contact other species without collective approval. Their resources would be managed by collective advisors. Their leaders would answer to collective oversight. In exchange, humanity would receive protection from external threats, access to basic technology, and trade opportunities approved by the collective council. It was not an alliance. It was surrender wrapped in pretty words. "This is unacceptable," Wu said when she showed him the documents. "They want to make us slaves." "Not slaves," Bai replied, though her voice was tired. "More like children, children who can never grow up, children who must always ask permission." "That is worse." She could not disagree. That night, Wu contacted Admiral Ho through a secure channel. The Admiral listened without interrupting as Wu described the treaty terms. "It is what we expected," Ho said when Wu finished. "The galaxy is not kind to the weak. Every species we have observed follows the same pattern. The strong take from the weak. The old control the young." "Then why did we come? Why did we pretend we wanted peace?" "Because we do want peace, Captain, true peace, but peace between equals, not peace between a master and a servant." Ho paused. "Continue the negotiations. Buy us time. Let them believe we are considering their offer. And if they become impatient, then we will show them why patience is a virtue." Back on the Eternal Grace, Bai tried a different approach. She asked questions. She wanted to know about other species that had joined the collective. She wanted to hear success stories, examples of young species that had grown and thrived under collective guidance. High Emissary was happy to provide examples. He spoke of the who had joined 5,000 years ago and now served as engineers throughout collective space. He spoke of the who provided agricultural expertise on 100 worlds. He spoke of the Vex, who were excellent workers in mining operations. "All of them found their place," said with that same smooth smile. "All of them contribute according to their abilities." "And what would humanity's place be?" Bai asked. Tilted his head, considering. "Your species is aggressive and adaptable. You would make excellent soldiers, perhaps, or workers in hazardous environments. Your short make you less valuable for long-term projects, but you reproduce quickly, which has its uses." Bai felt cold. Spoke about humanity the way a farmer might speak about livestock. What were their uses? How could they be productive? The idea that humans might have their own goals, their own dreams, their own path through the stars seemed to never enter his mind. "We will need to discuss this with our government," she said carefully. "Of course, take all the time you need." Smile widened slightly. "Though I should mention that the collective does not wait forever. Unaligned species often face difficulties. The galaxy is a dangerous place without protection." The threat was soft but clear. On the 6th day, Commander arrived. Unlike, made no effort to hide what he was. He was a soldier, tall and with eyes that measured everything for its potential as a threat or a target. He commanded the military forces of the Eye, and he looked at the humans the way a wolf looks at sheep. "These are the new ones?" he asked, not bothering to address the humans directly. "Yes, they are still considering our generous offer." Laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Considering, how amusing. The last species that spent too long considering is now dust. Do you know the system, humans? No, there is a reason for that. They took too long to decide. Now their world is a mining colony and their species exists only in history books." "Is that a threat?" Wu asked, his voice hard. Finally looked at him directly. It is a fact. The galaxy has rules. Those who do not follow the rules do not survive. Your species is young. You do not understand yet, but you will learn. One way or another, you will learn. That night, Bai found Scholar alone in the garden. The young eye looked troubled, her usual brightness dimmed. Is what Commander said true? Bai asked. About the... Was quiet for a long moment. Yes, it is true. They were proud. They believed they could stand alone against the collective. They were wrong. And you think humanity will share their fate if we refuse? I think, looked around, making sure they were alone. I think the collective is not what it claims to be. I have studied the old records. When the eye first began expanding, they spoke of partnership and equality. Now they speak of protection and guidance. The words have changed because the truth has changed. We do not make allies anymore. We make servants. Then why do you stay? Because there is nowhere else to go. The collective is everything. Outside of it, there is only emptiness and danger. Met Bai's eyes. I like your people. I hope you find a way, but I do not know what that way could be. On the 7th day, Bai requested a break in negotiations. She needed to consult with Earth, she explained. The decision was too important to make quickly. Agreed with his usual grace. Of course, we understand. Young species need time to accept change. We will wait. But as Bai returned to the Harmony, she noticed something. The eye ships had changed position. They were no longer arranged in a welcoming formation. Now they surrounded the human vessel, blocking every possible escape route. Captain Wu noticed it too. They are not letting us leave, he said quietly as they walked through the corridor to the bridge. Not yet, Bai agreed, but they will. They think they have already won. Have they? Bai thought about the silent mountain, hidden in the asteroids, waiting. She thought about Admiral Ho, watching everything, planning for every possibility. She thought about all the secrets humanity had kept, all the weapons they had built in the shadows, all the preparations for a moment exactly like this one. No, she said, they have not won anything yet. The 8th day began with a new ship appearing in the system. It was larger than the others, darker, and it moved with the heavy confidence of a predator entering its hunting ground. This was not a diplomatic vessel. This was a warship, and everyone who saw it understood exactly what its arrival meant. Fleet Master had come to finish what had started. Captain Wu watched the new ship take position above the I formation. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing through scenarios, calculating odds, searching for options that did not exist. The Harmony had light weapons, enough to fight off pirates or small threats. Against 4 I warships, they might as well have been throwing stones. They are hailing us, reported Lieutenant Park. Put it through. The screen flickered and a new face appeared. Was older than, with deeper scars and colder eyes. Where was a wolf was something worse. He was a hunter who had stopped caring about the hunt itself. He only cared about the kill. I am Fleet Master, he said without greeting or introduction. I have reviewed the reports from High Emissary. Your species has been given a generous opportunity to join the collective. You have wasted time with questions and delays. This ends now. Dr. Bai stepped forward. Fleet Master, we meant no disrespect. The decision to join the collective will affect our entire species. We simply need more time to. Time is a luxury the weak cannot afford. Cut her off without interest. Let me be clear so there is no more confusion. The collective does not make alliances with lesser species. We do not negotiate. We absorb. Your world will become part of the collective. Your people will serve in whatever capacity we decide. This is not an offer. It is a fact. And if we refuse, Wu asked. His lips curled into something that was almost a smile. Then we will demonstrate what happens to species that refuse. Your world will be cleansed. Your cities will burn. Your people will become a memory, a lesson for the next young species foolish enough to believe they have a choice. Silence filled the bridge of the harmony. The crew looked at each other, fear visible in their eyes. This was the moment they had all secretly feared, the moment when the universe proved itself to be as cruel and cold as the empty space between stars. Dr. Bai felt her heart pounding in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. Surely, there must be another way. The collective claims to value life. How can you destroy an entire species simply because they want to determine their own future? Value life, laughed a sound like grinding metal. We value useful life. Life that serves a purpose. Life that contributes. A species that refuses to contribute is not valuable. It is a threat, and threats must be eliminated. High Emissary appeared on the screen beside. His smooth smile was gone, replaced by cold indifference. I tried to guide you gently, humans. I gave you every opportunity to accept reality peacefully, but you chose to be difficult. Now you will learn the hard way. Commander's voice came from somewhere off-screen. Weapons are charged and ready, Fleet Master. Good, target the human vessel. Let them see what awaits their world if they continue to resist. The ice ships began to power up their weapons. Energy gathered along their hulls, glowing blue and deadly. The Harmony's alarms started screaming as targeting systems locked onto the small human ship. All crew brace for impact, Wu ordered, his voice steady despite everything. He looked at Bai. I am sorry, I wish we had found a better way. We still might, she replied. She pressed a button on her console, sending a single coded burst toward the asteroid belt. One word, hidden in the noise of 1,000 system processes, invisible to anyone who did not know to look for it. Mountain. In his hidden command center, Admiral Ho received the signal. He had been watching the situation develop for hours, hoping it would not come to this. But hope, he knew, was not a strategy. Lieutenant So, he said calmly, status of the Silent Mountain. All systems ready, Admiral. Weapons charged, crew at battle stations. We can be at the engagement zone in 6 minutes. Ho nodded slowly. For 30 years, humanity had built this ship in secret. They had hidden it among the asteroids, disguised its energy signatures, kept it off every record and every database. The galaxy believed humans were primitive, barely capable of, weak and harmless. The Silent Mountain was proof of how wrong they were. Drop the cloak, he ordered. All engines ahead full. Yes, Admiral, but sir, once we reveal ourselves, there is no going back. Ho stood and walked to the main viewport. Somewhere out there, beyond the tumbling rocks and ancient ice, humans were about to die. Good people who had come in peace, who had tried to find a better way. There was never any going back, he said quietly. There was only forward, always forward. The Silent Mountain began to move. Back at the standoff, the eye weapons reached full charge. Raised his hand, ready to give the order. Any final words, humans? He asked with cold amusement. Dr. Bai thought about her home on Earth, the small apartment she had grown up in, the garden her mother had kept. She thought about all the humans who would never know what happened here, who would live their ordinary lives until the day the Eye Fleet appeared in their skis. She thought about Scholar, who had tried to warn her, who had hoped for something better. She lifted her head in Met's eyes. Yes, one final word, wait. Frowned, wait for what? At that moment, every sensor on every ice ship screamed in alarm. Something massive was approaching. Something impossibly large, moving at speeds that should not have been possible, emerging from the asteroid belt like a monster rising from the deep ocean. What is that? Shouted, his voice losing its confidence for the first time. That energy signature makes no sense. No ship is that large. High Emissary stared at his own screens in disbelief. The report said humans had barely developed basic space travel. Where did they get something like that? Fleet Master's face went pale. He had conquered a dozen species in his career. He had destroyed worlds that dared to resist. He had never once been surprised, until now. All ships, he commanded, his voice suddenly uncertain. All ships identify that contact, now. But the contact did not wait to be identified. A voice came through every communication channel, cutting through all encryption, all security, broadcasting in perfect clarity to every being in the system. This is Admiral Ho of the Earth Defense Force. On the Harmony, the crew stared at each other. Bai felt tears forming in her eyes, though she could not have said why. On the I flagship, stood frozen, watching his tactical display fill with warning signals. And out of the darkness between worlds, the silent mountain finally revealed itself to the galaxy. You have threatened our people, the Admiral's voice continued, calm as still water. You have threatened our world. We gave you every chance to leave in peace, every chance to treat us as equals. You chose to be conquerors instead. The massive ship was now visible on optical sensors. 2 kilometers of black steel and angular armor. Weapons systems that glowed with barely contained power. A main cannon that ran the entire length of its spine, pointing directly at the I fleet. So let me make something very clear, Admiral Ho said. We are not prey, we never were. For the first time in his long career, Fleet Master did not know what to do. And in the silence that followed, humanity finally stepped onto the stage of the galaxy, not as children or servants, but as something the collective had never expected. Something dangerous. The silent mountain filled the of every ship in the system. It was a monument of human engineering, a cathedral of war built in shadows and silence. Its hull was made of black metal that seemed to drink the light of distant stars. Its armor was thick enough to survive impacts that would vaporize ordinary vessels, and its weapons were pointed at the I fleet with the patience of a predator that knows its prey cannot escape. Fleet Master stared at the impossible ship for a long moment before he could find words. That ship is 10 times the size of my flagship. How is this possible? Our intelligence said humans had no military presence in space. Our intelligence was wrong, Commander replied, his voice tight with controlled fear. Very wrong. On the bridge of the silent mountain, Admiral Ho stood at the center of calm within a storm of activity. Officers ran calculations, checked weapon systems, and prepared for whatever came next. Lieutenant So watched the tactical display with sharp eyes, tracking every movement of the enemy fleet. They are confused, she reported. Their formation is breaking apart. They do not know whether to attack or retreat. Good, confusion is our ally. Ho turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the human diplomatic vessel. I want Dr. Bai to hear this as well. Channel open, Admiral. Ho addressed the I fleet again. Fleet Master, I will give you the same choice you gave our people. Submit or be destroyed. The difference is I actually mean it as a choice. His face appeared on the main screen. His composure had returned, though anger burned behind his eyes. You dare threaten the collective. Do you have any idea what you are facing? We control hundreds of systems. We have fleets that would darken the skies of your world. One ship, no matter how large, cannot stand against the might of. One ship is all we needed to hide, Ho interrupted calmly. What makes you think it is all we have? That stopped cold. His eyes flickered with sudden doubt. If humans had hidden one Dreadnought, what else might be waiting in the darkness of their solar system? What other secrets had they kept from the watching eyes of the collective? You are bluffing, said, but his voice was uncertain. Perhaps, perhaps not. The question you need to ask yourself is simple. Are you willing to bet your fleet, your career, and your life on that assumption? Silence stretched between them. On the Harmony, Captain Wu watched the standoff with growing hope. The eye weapons had powered down, no longer targeting the human diplomatic vessel. The predators had suddenly found themselves facing something that might bite back. Dr. Bai stood beside him, her emotions mixed between relief and sorrow. She had wanted peace, true peace, friendship between species. Instead, the only language the eye seemed to understand was the language of force. "I wish it had not come to this," she said quietly. "Sometimes there is no other way," Wu replied. "Some beings only respect strength. It is not beautiful, but it is true." High Emissary pushed his way into the frame beside. His smooth composure was cracking, revealing something ugly beneath. "This changes nothing. The collective will send more ships. We will crush you eventually. All you have done is delay the inevitable." Admiral Ho smiled slightly. "Then let me show you something that might change your mind about inevitability." He nodded to Lieutenant So. She pressed a series of commands, and the Silent Mountain's main weapon began to charge. Energy gathered along the massive cannon that ran the length of the ship's spine, glowing brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at directly. "That weapon is pointed at your flagship's engine section," Ho explained conversationally. "At this range, I could destroy your entire ship before you could raise shields, but I am not going to do that." The cannon fired. A beam of pure light lanced through space, passing within meters of the Eye flagship. It struck nothing except empty void, continuing into the darkness until it faded from sight. But the message was clear. The Silent Mountain could have killed them. It chose not to. "We could have destroyed you," Ho continued. "From the moment we arrived, we had the power to end this. Every ship in your fleet turned to burning wreckage. We chose mercy instead. Do you understand what I am telling you?" His face had gone pale. Commander looked like he wanted to run but had nowhere to go. Even High Emissary had fallen silent. "We are not monsters," Ho said, his voice carrying the weight of something ancient and human. "We do not want to conquer, we do not want to destroy, but we will defend ourselves and our home against anyone who tries to take our freedom. This is not negotiable. This is not a discussion. This is who we are." On the Harmony, Dr. Bai found herself crying, not from fear or sadness, but from something deeper. This was the moment she had always hoped for and never truly believed would come. Humanity standing tall, not as conquerors but as equals, showing strength and mercy in the same breath. "Lieutenant So," Ho ordered, "target the enemy flagship's engines, precision fire, disable them without causing casualties if possible." "Understood, Admiral." The Silent Mountain's secondary weapons activated, smaller but no less accurate. 3 beams struck the Eye flagship exactly where So had aimed, cutting through shields and armor with surgical precision. The great ship shuddered as its engines went dark, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. Staggered as his bridge shook around him, "You attacked us. This is an act of war." "No," Ho replied. "This is a demonstration. Your ship is disabled, not destroyed. Your crew is alive. I could have killed all of you with a single shot from our main cannon. Instead, I chose to spare you. That is the difference between us, Fleet Master. You would have destroyed our world without hesitation. We choose to give you a chance to live." The other Eye ships began to power up their weapons, but they hesitated. If the human ship could disable a flagship with such ease, what chance did cruisers have? "Your other ships are welcome to try their luck," Ho said, as if reading their thoughts. "But I would recommend against it. Every weapon on the Silent Mountain is now targeting a different ship in your fleet. If any of you fires a single shot, all of you will be destroyed. That is not a threat. It is mathematics." Commander was the first to stand down. His ship's weapons powered off, and he raised his hands in a gesture of surrender that needed no translation. One by one, the other ships followed. High Emissary's face was twisted with rage and disbelief. "This is impossible. You are primitives. You have no right to stand against the collective." "Rights are not given," Dr. Bai said, finally finding her voice. "They are claimed, and humanity claims the right to determine its own future. You came here expecting to find prey. Instead, you found people who refuse to kneel." Turned his glare toward her. "The collective will not forget this insult. We will return with fleets beyond counting. We will make your species pay for this humiliation." "Perhaps," Admiral Ho acknowledged. "Or perhaps you will go back to your leaders and tell them what you found here. A species that wants peace but does not fear war. A people who could have killed you but chose not to. Think about what that means, emissary. Think about what kind of enemy you would be making." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, to everyone's surprise, a new voice entered the conversation. Scholar appeared on the screen beside, pushing past the stunned diplomats. "I request asylum," she said clearly. "I wish to stay with the humans." Turned on her with fury. "You traitor, you would abandon your own people." "I would choose to stand with those who show mercy over those who show only cruelty." Met his eyes without flinching. "The collective I believed in was supposed to uplift other species, not enslave them. Today, I saw a primitive species act with more honor than our own leaders. I choose them." The silence that followed was different. It was the sound of something fundamental changing, of cracks appearing in foundations that had stood for thousands of years. Admiral Ho nodded slowly. "Your request is granted, Scholar. You are welcome among us." "Admiral," Lieutenant So reported, "the disabled flagship is being towed by the other I ships. They appear to be preparing to withdraw from the system." Ho watched the enemy fleet begin its slow retreat. It was not a victory in the traditional sense. The collective still existed. Threats might still come. But today, humanity had proven something that could never be taken back. "Let them go," he ordered. "They have learned enough for one day." And as the ice ships disappeared into the darkness between stars, carrying tailies of the impossible human dreadnought that had spared them when it could have destroyed them, a new chapter in galactic history began to write itself. A chapter where humanity would be remembered not as prey, but as something far more complicated and far more dangerous. A species that chose mercy from a position of absolute power. 3 weeks had passed since the standoff near Neptune. The I fleet had retreated to the edge of the solar system and then jumped into faster-than-light travel, disappearing toward their distant. They left behind only silence and the memory of their defeat. On Earth, the news spread slowly at first, then all at once. The governments released carefully prepared statements. Scientists confirmed the existence of alien life. Religious leaders offered prayers and interpretations, and ordinary people looked up at the stars with new eyes, knowing that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The silent mountain remained hidden. Admiral Ho had ordered it back to its berth among the asteroids, cloaked once more in shadows and secrecy. The galaxy knew it existed now, but they did not need to know where it waited. Dr. Bai returned to Earth a hero, though she did not feel like one. She had gone to space hopping to make friends and had instead witnessed the beginning of something that might become a war. The weight of that knowledge pressed on her constantly. 1 month after the encounter, she received a request for a private meeting. The sender was Admiral Ho. They met in a small garden outside the United Earth Government complex, surrounded by trees and flowers that did not know or care about the politics of distant stars. The Admiral looked older than she remembered, tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "Thank you for coming," he said as they walked along a stone path. "I was not sure what to expect," she admitted. "We have not spoken since the eye left." "I know, I wanted to give you time." He paused beside a bench overlooking a small pond. "May we sit?" They sat together in silence for a moment, watching fish swim lazy circles beneath the surface. "I have a question," Bai said finally. "One that has been bothering me since the day you revealed the Silent Mountain." "Ask." "Why did we build it? You said we hoped we would never need it. But 30 years of secret construction, hidden from the entire world, does not sound like hope. It sounds like certainty. Certainty that someday we would face exactly this kind of threat." Ho nodded slowly. "You are right, it was not just hope, it was understanding." He looked up at the sky, though no stars were visible in the daylight. Humans have always dreamed of meeting other intelligent life. We made movies about it, wrote books about it, imagined 1,000 different scenarios. Some were beautiful, some were terrifying. And you prepared for the terrifying ones. We prepared for reality. We looked at our own history, Dr. Bai. Every time a more advanced civilization has encountered a less advanced one, the result has been the same: conquest, exploitation, destruction of cultures and peoples. Why would the universe be any different? Why would alien species be kinder than we were to ourselves? Bai thought about the eye, about its patronizing smile and its cold threats. She thought about all the species the collective had absorbed, reduced to servants and workers. The Admiral was right. History repeated itself among the stars just as it did on Earth. So we built a weapon, she said. We built a shield, Ho corrected gently. The silent mountain was never meant for conquest. It was meant to ensure that humanity would have a choice, that no one could force us to kneel without our consent. That is all we ever wanted, the freedom to decide our own future. And now, what happens now? Ho smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. Now we wait. The collective will decide how to respond. They may send more ships. They may try to negotiate as equals this time. They may spread warnings about us to every species they control. We cannot know which path they will choose. Scholar believes they will be afraid, Bai said. She thinks the story of the human dreadnought will spread, and other species will start to question the collective's power. She may be right. One act of defiance can inspire others. The collective has controlled the galaxy through fear for thousands of years. We showed that fear can be broken. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. A bird landed nearby, searching for insects among the flowers. Life continued as it always did, regardless of the grand events shaping the fate of worlds. I met with yesterday, Bai said eventually. She is adjusting well. Earth is very different from her, but she seems happy. Good. Her knowledge of the collective will be valuable. But more importantly, she represents something new. An alien who chose humanity not because we were powerful, but because we showed mercy. Do you think there will be others like her? I hope so. The collective is not a single thing. It is made of many species, many individuals, each with their own thoughts and dreams. Some of them must be tired of serving. Some of them must want something more. If we can reach those people, offer them a different path, we might build something better than either of our civilizations could build alone. Bai looked at the old admiral with new understanding. That was always the plan, was it not? The silent mountain was not just a weapon. It was a message, a signal to everyone watching that humanity was worth listening to. You are wise, Dr. Bai. Yes, that was part of it. Power without purpose is just destruction. We wanted to show the galaxy that humans could be strong and merciful at the same time, that we would fight to protect ourselves but would never become the monsters we feared. A difficult balance. The most difficult but worthwhile. 3 months later, the first messages began arriving from beyond the solar system. They were not from the I Collective. They came from other species, minor members of the collective, races that had long been silenced and controlled. The messages were careful, coded, hidden from collective surveillance. But their content was the same. We heard about what you did. We want to know more. Is there another way? Dr. Bai led the response team, working with Scholar to craft replies that were encouraging but cautious. They did not promise protection they could not provide. They did not make offers they could not keep, but they did offer something no one else in the galaxy was offering. Hope. Over the following year, Earth began to change. The knowledge that aliens existed, that humanity was not alone, transformed societies in ways no one had predicted. Old conflicts seemed less important when compared to the vastness of the universe. Old divisions faded as people began to think of themselves as humans first and everything else second. The silent mountain was joined by other ships, built openly now, constructed by a united humanity that finally had something greater than itself to strive toward. An Earth defense fleet grew in the shipyards of orbit, each vessel carrying the same philosophy. We do not seek war, but we will not be slaves. Admiral Ho retired quietly, his work done. He was replaced by younger officers, people who had grown up knowing about the stars and the dangers they held, but his legacy lived on in every decision they made. Captain Wu became an admiral himself, commanding a new class of warship designed to patrol the outer solar system. He remained as careful and suspicious as ever, but there was a new warmth in his eyes. He had seen the worst of what the universe could offer and had learned that humanity could face it without losing its soul. Dr. Bai was offered a position in the new Galactic Relations Department, but she turned it down. Instead, she returned to teaching, training the next generation of diplomats who would venture out among the stars. She told them stories of her time aboard the Eternal Grace, of the lessons she had learned about strength and mercy and the difficult balance between them. And Scholar became the first alien to receive Earth citizenship, a symbol of what might be possible between species that chose to trust each other. She worked tirelessly to build bridges, to translate not just languages but ideas and values. She believed in humanity's potential, perhaps more than many humans believed in themselves. The galaxy watched. Some watched with fear, wondering what the humans would do next. Some watched with anger, planning revenge for the humiliation the collective had suffered. But some watched with hope, seeing in humanity something they had almost forgotten was possible. The freedom to choose. The silent mountain waited in its hidden berth, patient and ready. It had proven its worth once, and it would prove it again if necessary. But its crew hoped, as all humans hoped, that the next chapter of their story would be written in peace rather than fire. First contact had been peaceful until it was not, but what came after was something nobody had expected. A humanity that could have become conquerors chose to become guardians instead. And across the endless darkness of space, on 100 worlds ruled by fear and silence, beings who had forgotten how to dream began to remember. The stars were not as cold as they had seemed. Not anymore.